what a ride this Yankee season has been. The twists and turns. Now the Yankees, believe it or not, they swept the Red Sox in Boston. Definitely did not see that coming. You know, we've known that Boston is certainly a team that was not expected to do all that well this season, but has definitely exceeded expectations. And the Red Sox got the better of the Yankees, winning the first 7 head-to-head matchups this season. As well, we're 10-3, but the Yankees have swept the last 2 series against Boston. This one at Fenway Park, and this was really important. Again, I still think, even with this being said, it keeps you having a chance to be ahead of Boston, but I still think Boston will finish ahead of the Yankees, because even if they tie, Boston does have that tie break. Like, let's say Boston and the Yankees finished tied and Toronto was not in the mix. Boston would get the home game. I still think Toronto is the key team to look at here, and Toronto split with the Twins. I think you have to sign up for that. Absolutely. So it was a great weekend the way that it worked out, and the Yankees are now a game out of Boston and 2 out of Toronto, with a really important Blue Jays series coming up in Toronto, followed by facing the Tampa Bay Rays, who clinched the AL East, and very soon, likely before the series starts against the Rays, will wrap up the home field in the American League. But it's still the Rays, and I'm sure they'd love nothing more than to beat the Yankees. But before it gets to that point, you know, Boston's got series at Baltimore and at Washington. It doesn't get much easier than that. And Toronto, after the Yankee series, is home against Baltimore. So it is imperative that the Yankees, as good as this was, and this was very important, that the Yankees find a way to win the series against Toronto. It's as simple as that. You certainly can't afford to get swept. You cannot afford to get swept. You know, losing 1 out of 3 would not be good at all, but it's a big difference between losing 1 out of 3 and getting swept. This is going to be the series that determines the season, but just the fact that they swept Boston in Boston has got to make you feel good. And the Yankees are getting healthy, certainly on the pitching side of things, and it's come in handy. But Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge have really been so important to this lineup, and the 2 best players in this lineup for the majority of the season. And lately, Stanton has just been on a fucking tear. Like, when he is locked in, he is one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball, and he made his presence felt in a major, major way in this Boston series. Huge home runs, and he just annihilating the baseball. So Stanton deserves a lot of credit. He, you know, takes a lot of shit from Yankee fans, and I think a lot of it isn't necessarily all his fault. I think, like, his contract is certainly exorbitant, certainly in terms of length. Giancarlo Stanton, when healthy, has been a very productive player. Now, he hasn't been that healthy. That's the key with Judge and Stanton this year. They've stayed on the field. And what a difference it makes. When Judge and Stanton are healthy, what it does for this lineup, it's invaluable. It really is. So, in this first game, it would be Garrett Cole versus Nate Eovaldi. And the Yankees got to Eovaldi. And Eovaldi, for the most part, has done well against the Yankees recently. I know the Yankees have had some moments where they have crushed him. But I feel like Eovaldi's done mostly well. But the Yanks in this one, and really just in terms of thinking about the lineups for the series, it was basically the same thing. If I'm Luke Voit, I'm frustrated that I didn't play the last game. We'll talk about that. There was a lefty on the mound, and Eduardo Rodriguez, who Voit had good numbers against. I thought they might go Voit over Rizzo, and I would have been fine with it. You could have had Rizzo as a defensive replacement or a pinch hitter, but the crew pretty much is Rizzo at first, Torres at second, Urshela at short, LeMahieu at third, Gallo in left, Gardner in center, Judge in right, and Stanton at DH. It was in the Boston series. I mean, that could change, but that's what it is. And then a catcher, it kind of depends on who's pitching. If it's Cole or Kluber, it's Higashioka. If it's anyone else, it's Sanchez. But you know, you're starting to find some continuity, but Voigt's kind of on the outskirts, although, again, I think he'll factor in here and there. But as it pertains to the specific games, you know, Garrett Cole was good, but the final line isn't great because he ends up giving up a 3-run homer to Rafael Devers in the 6th. But Cole was pretty good. But the Yankee offense really they absolutely destroyed Nathan Eovaldi. It started in the first. LeMahieu single, Rizzo single, Judge double. So right there, 1-0 Yanks. And that's exactly how you want to start this big series. Giancarlo Stanton gets an RBI ground out, makes it 2-0. Joey Gallo does not get the run in. It's a shallow fly ball, but then Gleyber Torres gets an RBI single. And at that point, continuing his good, his clutch play from the previous game. And that would make it 3-0 Yanks. And then in the third, the Yankees would score more. Rizzo double, Judge walk, and a 3-run homer for Giancarlo Stanton. And oh boy, was he just getting started. That started right there. At that point, it was his 32nd homer of the season, and it would make it 6-0. Then Gallo singles, and then a couple of outs, and then Gardner walks, and then Evaldi's done at 2 2/3 innings. It was ugly for Evaldi. And I think in a one-game playoff, not that this was any question, but I think Chris Sale would be the guy for Boston. Kyle Higashioka would get lucky, where it's crazy that they rule this a single. I don't know why. I mean, it's so stupid, but Higashioka gets an RBI single on a pop-up that Schwarber just didn't catch. And so that would make it 7-0. And, eventually, the Yankees offense kind of settles in, doesn't really do a whole lot. And then in the bottom of the sixth, Rafael Devers is a 3-run homer off of Garrett Cole. And Devers has destroyed Cole this season numerous times. And so that makes it 7-3. So it gets a little bit interesting. But luckily, Gleyber Torres homers off of Martin Perez, who I believe he homered off of earlier in the season. Martin Perez, not a great pitcher, but give Torres credit. His 8th homer of the year makes it 8-3 Yanks. And then Clay Holmes comes in the 7th and gets a couple of outs. Then Wandy Peralta finishes the inning, gets a big strikeout of Bobby Dahlbeck, who was a pinch hitter. And then in the 8th, it would be Wandy Peralta for a scoreless 8th. And then Chad Green would pitch a scoreless 9th. So a good job by the Yanks. This was kind of the one outlier game in the fact that the Yankees won fairly easily. It was good. It was a rare one, but a good one. Cole gets his 16th win of the season. And the Yankees win the all-important first game. So now we go to game 2. And these last 2 games are definitely way more jam-packed and just a lot more fun. But DJ LeMahieu did not play game 2. He's been dealing with injuries, like a hip and groin situation. So he's battling through it, and he had a pretty good, we'll talk about his third game, but he would return for game 3, and he did well. But Gardner would lead off, and Rougned Odor made his first start in a long time. This would be between Nestor Cortez and Nick Pivetta. And Nick Pivetta completely shut the Yankees down. They couldn't touch him. And Nick Pivetta, that's a bad job by the Yankees. Nick Pivetta has not been great lately, and the Yankees really couldn't touch him. And Nestor Cortez, he kept the Yankees in the ballgame. That's what he usually does. That's what most of the Yankee starters do, is that they keep the Yankees in the game. Cortez did just that. He wouldn't go deep into the game, but he did good enough. In the third, Kevin Plawecki would homer off of Cortez to make it 1-0. Then in the 5th, and mind you, at this point, the Yankees are not doing much. A lot of strikeouts against Pivetta. Certainly, like the Gallo, Torres, Sanchez, 5, 6, 7 was striking out a lot. In the bottom of the 5th, Schwarber singles. Then with 1 out, Plawecki singles. Then Michael King comes in for Cortez. So Cortez's day is done. He was running out of gas a bit, starting to get hit harder, and so he's out of the game in the 5th. Michael King comes in, and Michael King has been good since returning from injury, and that would continue here, but he would be a little bit unlucky. An infield single for Iglesias makes the bases loaded, and then a wild pitch. So, for these wild pitches, there's always blame to go to Sanchez, but it's ruled a wild pitch, and so that scores a run, makes it 2-0. But good job on King to not let that affect him, as he would strike out Hernandez and Renfroe to hold it at 2-0. And the Yankees the next inning would score, as with 1 out, Urshela singles, Gardner doubles, they bring in Hansel Robles for Pivetta, and when Aaron Judge is up, there's a wild pitch that scores Urshela and moves Gardner to third. Unfortunately, though, Aaron Judge does not get the job done. He grounds out to third, and they throw Gardner out at home. So that was a big spot, and Judge, failed in that situation. So the Yankees are still down by 1. King gets a couple of outs in the 6th, then Lucas Licky would finish the inning as he gets Schwarber out. And then in the 7th, Tanner Houck comes in, and he walked Standing Gallo 8 pitches, 8 balls. And so then Gleyber Torres on an 0-1 pitch grounds a double play. And that's a bad job by Gleyber there in a big situation. And then Gary Sanchez strikes out. And Sanchez, he's basically back to his bullshit where he's striking out a lot, chasing bad pitches, and it's to the point now where here we are in a season where I don't really mind Higashioka being in over Sanchez when you include defense and everything else. Higgy might just be the better option, and that's a guy who bats like 170. I mean, it's just sad for Sanchez. So Luis Severino comes in the seventh, and it turns out that Luis Severino gets his first win in a couple of years. So Severino does a really good job in the seventh, striking out a couple as well. And then in the eighth is when the damage happens, and it's with 2 outs. Gardner walks, then he's still second, and then Judge walks. And Tanner Houck at this point is out of the game. And Cora bringing in Darwinzon Hernandez was definitely a curious decision when you consider the fact that Anthony Rizzo is better against lefties than he is against righties. And if he doesn't get Rizzo out, then it's Giancarlo Stanton, who is historically one of the best hitters versus left-handers. What does Hernandez do? He hits Rizzo on a 3-1 count. And so that makes it bases loaded for Giancarlo Stanton. First pitch off Hernandez. An absolute missile bomb into the Boston night over the Green Monster. Grand slam Stanton. What a moment. One of the biggest moments in the Yankees season. It makes it 5-2. Stanton's had some big ones. Like walk-off hits, game-tying hits. Field of Dreams, he could have been the hero. If not for Zach Britton blowing the Field of Dreams game, Stanton hits the big 2-run homer. I mean, Stanton has just been insanely clutch. And that was one of the things that I ripped on him for. His first season with the Yanks, which was a pretty good one, I felt, regular season-wise. He absolutely sucked in that Red Sox series. I'll never forget that. But he's changing that tune, where last year in the playoffs, he was really good. Really, really good. So this is a guy that you do want up there in the big moments. That makes it 5-2. Then in the eighth, it would be Severino. And Severino pitches well again. And Severino is going to be a very key factor out of this bullpen. It's great to see. So the Yankees would keep the 3-run lead, and then Chapman comes in the ninth. And whenever Chapman's in, it's always going to be interesting. And it would be again. With 1 out, Dahlbeck homers. Makes it 5-3. And then he hits Kevin Plawecki. You really don't want to do that. Now the tying runs up. And Iglesias strikes out, and Kike Hernandez grounds out. So Chapman is able to get the save. A really big win for the Yankees. The Stanton grand slam being the big blow. And so they head into the last game with a chance to sweep. And that's not going to be easy. Boston, of course, doesn't want to get swept. They're at home. But they would. And so it would be Jordan Montgomery versus Eduardo Rodriguez. And the Yankees would eventually get to Rodriguez, but he gives the Yankees troubles. He does. And he did in this one. And Montgomery, he was running out of gas towards the end, but he did what he had to. 5 innings, 1-run ball. I will not complain with that. So in this one, the Red Sox would jump out to the lead in the fourth as Devers singles, then he's still second. And Montgomery should have paid a little more attention to him. He's still second. Then Bogart singles, makes it first and third, no out. And it's a sac fly for J.D. Martinez. That would make it 1-0. We move to the next inning, the fifth. So Rodriguez can't hold that. Leadoff walk for Torres. Sanchez singles. Gardner singles with the bases loaded. Urshela grounds into a double play, but a run does score. So not a good job by Gio there. Again, the numbers runners and scoring in this year have not been great for him, but they do tie the game up in that moment. And then DJ LeMahieu with a very clutch 2-out opposite field RBI single to give the Yanks a 2-1 lead. So we move to the bottom of the fifth, and Montgomery's getting hit hard but escapes to the point where Devers is up with first and second, 2-out, 3-0 count. Montgomery puts one right down the middle, and Devers crushes it, but it doesn't go out. So Montgomery would be done at this point. And in the sixth, Clay Holmes strikes out the side. Bogarts, Martinez, Dahlbeck. Holmes is filthy and has been absolutely amazing since the trade from Pittsburgh. In the bottom of the seventh, they take Holmes out as Holmes comes out to start the seventh, but then because the Red Sox would put a pinch hitter out there, they bring in the lefty Rodriguez, to which then the Red Sox would pinch hit for that guy. It would be Jose Iglesias. I would have left Clay Holmes in there, personally. I just think that righty-lefty doesn't matter. Holmes has been so good that you don't fuck around. But they did, and it kind of cost them. Rodriguez gives up a single to Iglesias. Then it's a lucky single, a bunt single by Verdugo. Then a wild pitch by Joel Rodriguez. Again, Sanchez is going to deserve some blame. And then a sac fly by Christian Vasquez ties it up at 2. Chad Green would come on, and Green did well in this one, actually. He did, for the most part. He gets Kike Hernandez to strike out looking, and then Schwarber comes in as a pinch hitter. Schwarber would hit a pop-up to DJ LeMahieu in foul territory, and he drops it. Inexplicably just drops the ball, LeMahieu. I guess it was a little windy, I don't know. So here it is. Schwarber gets a second life. What do you know? Schwarber hits a pop-up to Joey Gallo, fly ball. And what does Gallo do? He drops the ball. Like, incredible. LeMahieu in foul territory, then Gallo, and the Red Sox take a 3-2 lead off that. And wow, would that have been a very tough way to lose if that's how it went down. Just really remarkable. And it seemed like they were choking it away in that moment. But the Yankees, in the top of the 8th, get it done. Leadoff walk by Gio Urshela. And at this point, Garrett Richards is on the mound for the Red Sox. Tyler Wade pinch runs for Urshela. And this is where things get interesting. On a 3-1 count, Wade is running. He's trying to steal. And my mindset was, you should probably wait until full count. But if you want to go on 3-1, then LeMahieu's got to be swinging. And that doesn't happen. LeMahieu takes a pitch right down the middle, and Wade is caught stealing. And for some reason, Wade, I'm not sure if he thought that LeMahieu walked. He kind of stops, like, as he's getting to second. It made no sense. It's a really bad job by Tyler Wade there. And he's caught stealing. But luckily, the Yankees would still push through. LeMahieu would walk. Then Rizzo rips a double, makes it second and third. And so that sets the stage for Adam Ottavino to come in to face Aaron Judge. Second and third, 1-out, 3-2 game. And Aaron Judge hits a pop-up into foul territory, and Bobby Dahlbeck can't come up with it. Not as bad as the LeMahieu drop, but Dahlbeck should have made it, didn't. And then what happens is Aaron Judge eventually appears to strike out. It's a foul tip that Vasquez catches, and then on the transfer, as he's trying to take the ball out of his glove and throw it back to the pitcher, he drops the ball. But Joe West, who's a terrible ump, who's basically blind, is clearly one of the worst umps in baseball. He rules that it's a foul ball, that Vasquez does not secure the catch. And it was wrong. The Yankees caught a huge break here. Very lucky. And Aaron Judge would take advantage of this break by hitting a 2-run double. As he slid into second, he would jam his pinky. He dislocated it, but apparently they popped it back in. It shouldn't be a problem, but something to monitor. And then the big blow off of Ottavino, the former Yankee, Giancarlo Stanton hits another mammoth home run over the Green Monster, a 2-run shot that gives the Yankees a 6-3 lead, his 34th homer of the year. Stanton was ridiculous this series. He's been crazy for like the last month, and that was a huge cushion. Makes it 6-3, and then Chad Green would pitch a scoreless 8th, but not without issue. A leadoff double by Devers. Then with 1 out, Martinez singles, makes it first and third, but he gets Dahlbeck to strike out and Iglesias to line out to Torres. And so it keeps it at 6-3. We move to the 9th, and Chapman comes in. And he gets the first couple of outs, but then Kike Hernandez walks. But he would get Kyle Schwarber to strike out looking. So if Devers on deck, it was key that Chapman ended it there. He did. Another save for Chapman. Still don't trust him, but we'll take it. And the Yankees get the very important sweep past the Red Sox in the standings for now. I don't think it's going to stay that way. And so that sets the stage for Yankees Blue Jays in Toronto. The Yankees' first series in Toronto all season long. Jameson Taillon returns. It's a tough spot to be in for Taillon. He'll face Hyun-Shin Ryu. And Taillon Ryu, that's been a matchup at least like 3 times this season. They've faced off head-to-head, and it'll happen again. And that won't be an easy matchup for many reasons. Then that leads you to game 2, where you got to win that one. That's Garrett Cole versus Jose Barrios. That's one you got to get. And then game 3, I think, could be challenging as well. Corey Kluber versus Robbie Ray. So I don't love game 1 and 3, but I do like game 2. If the Yankees could somehow win this series, they would be in awfully good shape at that point to make the playoffs. If you lose the series, then it's going to be a very stressful, nervous weekend. So it's the all-important Yankees-Blue Jays series. It's going to go a long way in determining where they go, but very excited about the Red Sox sweep. And let's hope this is the start of something special as we now hit the very last week of the MLB season.